Yeah. Well, anyway, so we'll start this off. Guys, thanks for coming. Welcome to Bluster and Blue Jays, episode 8. And the man above me is Garth Iorg, who played for the Jays for, was it 8 years, my friend?
Yeah,
1978 to 86?
almost 9 years.
Yeah.
Eight and change.
Damn. So you were originally drafted by the Yankees, right? In 76?
Right.
Okay. And
70,
then
73.
73. That's right. And then the Jays picked you up in the expansion draft,
Right.
right? And you came up in 78 and just were kind of there ever since.
Right.
So what was it like when you found out you were coming to Toronto back then? Because that definitely was, brand new thing when it came up. Were you excited about it?
I honestly I didn't know what to think. I was in Double A, the Yankees, and I was in West Haven, Connecticut at the time, and I was having a great year, and I broke my leg, and so I thought, well, nothing's going to happen, right? I'm just going to go home, rehab, and then I got sent to Venezuela, and I played with Bobby Cox in Venezuela, and then I came back, and realized I got drafted by Toronto.
Hmm.
Pat Gillick had called me and said, "Yeah, you're with us now," and I was like, I didn't know what it meant. All I knew, I was no longer a Yankee, and I
Yeah.
was like, you know, looking forward someday to put on the Yankee pinstripes.
Was that your thing growing up? Was that your team?
No, no, I grew up in Northern California, so my team was the Giants. But
Okay.
yeah, back in those days when I was a kid growing up, every Saturday was a Yankee game. And so I was thinking, geez, my mom and dad, if I made it to the big league, my mom and dad could watch me play. But when I got drafted by Toronto, I didn't know exactly what it meant. I
Yeah.
was very naive, very young, coming off in a major injury where I never ever regained the speed that I had but it was just like, kind of a shock and I think, geez, I broke my leg. Why do they want me? So it was interesting.
Well, Gillick obviously did he have a hand in drafting you to the Yankees in the first place? Because he came from the Yankees, right?
He did. He was our minor league farm director.
So he must have seen something new that he wanted to bring with him, I'm guessing.
He did. He liked me, and so it was very funny because he had guys with the Yankees that he had, kind of earmarked that would be coming to Toronto,
Hmm.
like Willie Upshaw, Damaso Garcia,
Yep.
Fred McGriff
Yep.
eventually. I mean, so he had these guys in mind. It was He's a very smart man.
He is
He
a very smart
really,
man.
really smart, and so it's like I don't know, just an interesting guy.
Well, the fact you guys got to the playoffs pretty quickly for an expansion team. I mean, if you compare yourself to Seattle, who didn't even get in and take until 2001 or something like that, or
Right.
somewhere around that neck of the woods, you guys got in within like eight years.
It was amazing.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's what I remember. Like I started watching about 81, 82, and I know for me, I loved watching you and Rance at third. That was one of the biggest things that I remember the most about back then. What did you think about Toronto and Exhibition Stadium when you finally got up here?
Well, at first, it reminded me of a minor league ballpark.
Yeah.
So it kind of like I said, it's kind of like, wow, we're going to play. I was kind of like amazed, because you're looking at
Mhm.
these beautiful stadiums in the United States,
Yeah.
and but you know what? I really grew to love that.
What was it about just the atmosphere?
It was the atmosphere. We packed it. It was just unique, and it was fast.
Yeah.
The turf was fast, and it kind of, like I likened our team to like the Los Angeles Lakers.
Hmm.
Basketball team. We were fast. We moved the ball. We were running down the court. And the Yankees were kind of like, they were on the Baltimore Orioles. It's like base to base.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when we played on our field, I felt like we had an amazing advantage,
Mhm.
so and our game was suited. Our team didn't walk a lot. We slashed, we
Yeah.
ran, we did things. Our manager was so much fun to play for, Bobby Cox,
Hmm.
and so it's just like, I don't know. He just knew what to expect from us. So it was, and the stadium literally was perfect for us.
Yeah. Now, was this style a style that he generally played back then, or was this a style that he just incorporated because of the players that he had on the team?
I think it was this. saw the style of players we had. Now,
Right.
not that we didn't have thumpers, we had guys, but when you
Oh
got
yeah.
Mosby and we had Jesse who ran good, but we also Jesse and George
Yep.
provided a ton of power. Ernie and Buck behind the plate. Ernie had some great years
Willie
offensive.
had some good power to him too.
Yeah, and Willie, but Willie could run,
Oh
Demasa could
yeah.
run, we could run, so we were always like we were in motion. I guess that in fact I was talking to Willie about this yesterday.
Mm.
We stole bases but more than that, we were on the move. I don't know how many times we hit and ran. I actually when I was at the plate, Bobby Cox would put on the hit and run with 2 strikes, which is unheard of,
Yeah.
you know. And I would put it in play, and more often than not, it's like a runner at first and third, and you just don't see that. It was fun. You don't see that today.
No,
You
you
don't see very few hit and runs, very few still. Well, they're still in bases now because of you can only throw over twice.
but the contact thing, like I think the only like I was watching the game yesterday, the like Luis Arise, ultimate contact guy. I mean, he's actually only struck out 3 times this year, apparently. Three.
Right.
So that's the kind of guys you don't see is like those singles hitters because I don't know what it is about wanting power for everything. I don't like the way the game's progressed that way. I preferred watching you guys play, but the one stat that always kills me for this team, and I think you're friends with Dave Collins, right?
Yeah.
He still has the single season stolen base record for this team because
Really.
he stole 60. What was it, 83 or 84?
Probably 84. Yeah.
Right? That's still the single season record for this team to this day, which blows my mind. Like I think the closest was 57 by Shannon Stewart. But like I want to get Dave on here to talk to him about that he can still say, like, I'm still the club leader in stolen bases. And like you said, with the way that you played, I'm surprised there wasn't more than just 60, especially
Right.
in the 80s.
Well, I mean, more than stolen base, we were hitting and running
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
So guys were in motion. We were swinging the bats. We never ever let like a guy just steal the base. Took a pitch for, allow a guy to steal the base. We were trying to get not to second. We were trying to get that guy to third.
Yeah.
Or if you hit, I remember one time we had a hit and run. I was at first. I was playing second base. Rance was playing third.
Mm-hmm.
We put the hit and run on with me and Rance, and he hits it out of the ballpark. It's like so. I don't know. You just don't have that today.
No.
It's not. It's not. That's fun. That's fun for the player. That's fun for the fan.
They did, watching the game yesterday, they did that. That's what they did in there. They had a big 5-run inning and it was all hit and run. It was all stolen bases, taking the extra base, which sometimes they're a little bit aggressive, but I'd rather them be aggressive than non-aggressive.
Right.
But it's like, yeah, because we know we don't actually have the power, which is a big thing. Like because you coached a lot as well, right? Since you've retired.
I managed every level for the Blue Jays in the minor leagues, from rookie ball to AAA.
Now, did you ever do like I know Kale was trying to play. Did you ever coach his team or anything like that?
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Did you ever coach Kale's team or any like younger players like that?
No,
Okay.
I coached. I never coached him in the minor leagues, but I had.
Well, I meant as a kid growing up because
Yeah.
because what I'm getting at is I'm finding that I don't think they're developing their kids well anymore. These parents are throwing kids on these like it's basically 12 months a year of road teams and playing all over the place and throwing like especially pitchers throwing curveballs and things when they shouldn't be doing them and then getting these kids to hit as hard as they possibly can at every given moment. And it just seems like the development has changed a lot from what it used to be.
It
Do you agree?
has. Yeah, it has. And I think that like a lot of kids, some kids don't even play on teams. They just go to
Yeah.
these perfect games,
Showcases and
and we literally called them showcase kids. And they don't even. We would actually. I actually had some with the Blue Jays that we
Mm.
drafted.
Oh,
These guys, and they didn't even know how. I remember I had a pitcher, and it was in Double A, and we
mm.
drafted him from the University of Michigan, and he was in Double A. I was managing Double A, and I called a thrower to first base to keep the guy close. He didn't know how to do it.
Wow.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, I guess there are certain things you just like baseball is the ultimate team sport. Like I've always said it's the hardest sport mentally because football you've got your weeklies. You can build yourself up for the week to do all these things. Well, now it's all over the place a bit, but
Right.
With baseball, there's just so much downtime to be thinking about things and watching things and observing things that it's got to take a lot of mental fortitude to go day by day for 162 games to be able to be as focused as you can be.
Yeah, you do. And it's like you said, it's like being able to, like the frustrating thing is you strike out and you got to wait for eight more guys before you get another chance at the guy, and now it's like if we struck out, I mean, we were bitter.
Yeah.
We couldn't wait to get to the plate. And it seemed like, and I don't want to bash on the players. They're awesome today.
No, that's a, yeah,
You know,
athletically amazing for
but
sure.
they strike out and they just, that's okay. The strikeout is not like, but when I played, it was like, how did I strike out against that guy?
Yeah. Like when the guy gets 212 strikeouts in the season, yeah, it seems a little bit much. Like I look at a guy like Kyle Schwarber, he's kind of he is that guy. He's the hit guy. He's the home run, walk, or strikeout guy. His
Right,
average is always around like 200, but he always blasts 40, 45 home runs.
right. And
Um,
that's a unique player.
yeah,
That guy would have never made it.
that's a Dave Kingman kind of guy. It's like we got a bunch of Dave Kingmans now playing. It's kind of
Yeah.
weird. Yeah. So, what did you think of Toronto when you got here as a city? Because, I mean,
My
back
God.
then it was still kind of like right now it's exponentially growing like mad. It's construction madness here. But back then it didn't seem to be like that. What was it like for you?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was awesome. I mean, I could not believe, I'm from a town of about 1,000 people in Northern California, in the middle of nowhere, lumber company town. And so, once a year, my parents would take us down to San Francisco to see the Giants play, right? It was like a 6-hour ride to go down there and watch them play.
Who's your
And
giant? Who's your favorite giant?
oh, Willie Mays,
Of
by
course.
far. Nobody even close. I
Yeah.
loved them all. I knew them all. Knew their numbers, the stats where they played, but Willie was the guy.
Yeah.
And then, but I loved that town. But when I went to Toronto, I just couldn't believe how awesome it was, how clean it was. You could, there was no fear. There was nothing about walking down. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I have nothing but unbelievable memories of the whole being in Canada, doing the whole thing. I absolutely loved it.
Well, I mean, you've still got people here. Like I mentioned last night to a friend of mine that I've known since I was like 12 years old. So we were kind of talking about the old times, and I mentioned that I was going to be interviewing you. Apparently, and I'm going to ask you this later on. My friend Leanne is a ridiculously large fan of yours. Like you are her favorite Blue Jay ever. And when I told my buddy that I was going to interview you, he's like, "Oh, can you get him to say something to Leanne?" I'm like, "Oh, I'll talk to him afterwards. We'll see what happens." But she absolutely adores you.
Well, that's cool. I,
Did
I love anybody
you,
that adores me. I love Leanne. That's awesome.
did you feel that love from the fans here? Did you feel how much they enjoyed you and the rest of the team?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm not unique. It was everybody, everybody. And I remember we'd have players, they'd come and they would move on and they would, gosh, man, I love playing in Toronto. They
Yeah.
absolutely love playing in Toronto. So it was a great place to be.
What about guys like Al Oliver and Cliff Johnson? Those guys who came in right at the end of their careers, really great players who just kind of came in towards like I think they were both 85, weren't they?
Yeah, they were, and Cliff was there longer than Al, but
Yeah.
yeah, but Cliff was, oh, they loved it,
Yeah.
and they were awesome guys. They were phenomenal. We had the best team as far as like getting along and having fun. It was, and just like a guy like Cliff Johnson, a unique person to say the least. They said
Yeah.
it was the old, well, that's Cliff. Don't worry about it. That's Cliff.
Hmm.
So but
Yeah.
we were able to just shrug things off. But the core group of guys that we had on our team,
That was a long core too. And if you think about it, with the guys in the outfield, with Willie, with Domo, with you, with Rance, with Tony, with Buck and Ernie, like that's a big core to carry through for a few years. You see much well,
absolutely.
free
Then you
agency
go,
has changed it obviously, but yeah,
but then you go Steve Clancy, Louis
Luis,
Leal,
yep,
Jimmy Key. I mean, that was incredible.
yeah.
That was a phenomenal
That
pitching
85
staff.
team was killer. I mean, I remember watching it at school. They turned on the game when you guys clinched it, the Tony shot and all that. Like that is etched. That is still the best team that's ever played in terms of wins.
Yeah,
Still the
no,
best one.
it was an awesome team. That was fun. I had a great day when we clinched that day. That
Yeah.
was fun.
You had a good year that year. You get over, didn't you get like 312 or something that year?
Yeah, I did. I led our
Nice.
team in batting average.
Yeah.
And
And
don't I we get together, I tell George, you won the MVP, but I was the best hitter on our team.
now, where did you come up with your batting stance? Because that was always the thing that got everybody. Because baseball's all got all these unique stances, and yours was very, very unique.
Yeah. I don't know. It was funny because I've always had decent years in the minor leagues. And like I said, I could
Mhm.
run. And so
Yep.
that was like my tool. And then when I broke my leg, I came to the Blue Jays and I sucked. I was a bad player and I got sent down to AAA and I'm down there and I'm just kind of like, man, I got to make a change. And I'm sitting there in a hotel room, in a minor league hotel room in Richmond, Virginia. We're playing the Richmond Braves. And on the game is the Minnesota Twins are playing of all the teams. And I'm looking at Rod Carew.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
And I'm sitting there looking at Rod and I'm going, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that. And I went out and took batting practice and I did it that day.
Wow.
I changed it that day. And I got a couple of hits and I got a couple more and I just kind of kept going. Next thing I know, I found myself back in the big leagues. It's just like, and it literally changed. And, that's just coaching myself. If I
Yeah.
had we didn't really have a lot of coaches back then. Cito
No.
Gasson look at me and go, I don't know what to do for you. So I've
One
always,
of the best hitting coaches ever. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm just kind of like, on my own trying to figure it out. I had good years. I had bad years. When I was on, I was on. When I was off, I was jumping out. I didn't realize what I was doing. We didn't have a whole
Mm.
lot of video then. We didn't have the stuff that they have today where you can look at each bat after
I
the bat.
I can't even imagine. Like that's the biggest thing that I find odd is allowing things like tablets in the dugout.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I think there should be a certain cutoff with the technology when it comes to the ball. Like you go down if you want to go look at it, go down in the tunnel, sure, do whatever you got to do. But it's weird to see players just sitting there, just instead of engaging in the game and watching what's
Right.
going on, they're staring at their tablets up to check out what they're going to do for their next at bat. I've
Well,
never,
it was
never liked it.
interesting because you would look at the guy who was most similar to you,
Hmm.
and you'd watch how they'd pitch him. And so you
Yeah,
were engaged. You were
exactly.
engaged in the game. But I'll have to admit, I would have loved to have had a tablet. I remember I asked TSN one time if they could, at the end of the year,
Yeah.
if they could isolate my at bats, so I'd have to watch a whole game. I just have a bat after bat. And they said, oh, you know how much time that would take us to do that? So
Back then, yeah, it would have been, yeah, because I went to broadcasting school and did all that stuff. It would have taken forever.
yeah,
But
it would have taken
now
forever.
it's
So I was
now it's a
like,
couple buttons and that's it.
yeah, okay, forget it, but to have a tablet of like they have today is,
Mm.
oh my
Now,
gosh, I would have loved that.
now, what do you think? Like, I'm glad they've done like the rule changes they've done. The only one that I'm not a big fan of is the extra runner in extra innings, putting a ghost runner on second because I think it's ridiculous. If you want to speed it up, personally, I would go maybe three more innings and throw them in like the 12th or something, or the 13th inning if you really want to start doing that. The pitch clock's been great to me because now it's back to the pace that you played at.
Right.
But the other one I'm not really a big fan of is the two throwovers, and then that's all you're allowed to have. What do you think of things like that to try and? I know they're trying to pick up the pace and things like that, but do you think it's gone a little bit too far?
I love the pace. I love
Mm.
the pitch count. I
Yeah,
don't like. I don't know why you got to have enlarged bases. I don't
yeah.
know. I don't know why. Um, I so we had Maury Wills in the minor league when I was managing. He was like our.
Oh, cool.
We had a base guy in Toronto hired him, and he was, and
Mm.
being a Giant fan, and he was. I mean, I was kind of mesmerized by Maury
No,
Wills.
that's just really cool.
But I
Nice.
asked him how he stole so many bases with guys thrown over, and he said people don't know this, but I delayed steal to break the record. You know, I
Really?
had a delay steal. They threw over like 5 or 6 times. Now, if you're a fan and you know what's going on, and you see Maury Wills and they're keeping him close,
Hmm.
it's like you saw one of the greatest things you ever will ever see in your life when he
Yeah.
did that, right? And
Exactly.
you're just not going to see that stuff anymore, you know.
Like,
And I it's kind of like I love amateurs playing hockey. Miracle on Ice, you'll never see it anymore. You
yeah,
know, a great college basketball team, all the teams, you know, play. You'll never see it anymore. It's an NBA team. You know,
yeah,
I just wish I wish the Olympics were amateurs. I wish.
yeah.
I mean, we do stuff. I don't know in the name of progress, and it's really like I think thrown over, really taking it back a little bit. I liked it. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, and the other one I find this is the one I really don't like is the three batter rule when you're coming in as a reliever. I can't
Yeah.
stand that rule. It really changes the strategy of the game a lot by doing
Well,
that.
and the you know the added player to the roster with more pitchers. With we had 10
Yeah,
pitchers.
I was gonna say 5 and 5. That's what it should always be. I don't understand this 5 and 8. I don't
Yeah,
get
but
13
you
pitchers.
know we had 10 pitchers, and you
Yeah.
made it work. You
Hmm.
know, and so it was like, and when you got into extra innings, you know, it was like
You
you know,
just
you did went all out to win that game.
yeah.
You know, we'll worry about tomorrow, but let's get we're played long enough. Let's win. I can I'm not going to tell you the name of the player, but we're
Mm.
playing somebody in Toronto, and it wasn't a very nice day. It was a cold, early April day. We were like in
Ugh.
the 13th or 14th inning, and I get on first base, and the guy playing first base looks at me and goes, "Man, I hope you score. I got to get out of here. You know, this game's too long. You know, you know, the old thing, we don't get paid for overtime." I go, well, you know, I looked at him. I said, all I could think about, man, I really want to win this game.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like, if I'm playing this long, I'm not gonna. I don't want to lose, you know, but I just, I don't know. I don't like those rules. I
Yeah.
think, and with all the amount of pitchers they carry today, they should be able to, and the way that you can send a guy down and bring somebody up, I
Yeah.
don't,
Well,
I,
I think you're going to see I think the contract comes up this year. I think next year they might go on strike because of all that stuff. Because you got to change those rules. I mean, the holding players back until May, so they have that extra
yeah,
year of service time and all that stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a
that's
little much.
ridiculous.
So, was there, who was your favorite teammate? Who was the one you loved to play with the most? Well, did you have one?
I couldn't even begin to,
They just
I
all pretty
love
cool.
guys,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I had some, I don't know, man, that's a hard question. I don't know
No.
if I have a favorite.
So there wasn't like a posse or anything because you find everybody cliques off these days, right? But back then it was just kind of the like one big happy family, pretty much.
It really was like choosing my favorite brother. You
Yeah.
know, it's like it's like these guys were like I told you. I talked to Willie. I talked to Tom Hinkie. You know, I hang out with Bug Martinez. I'm good friends with Ernie. You know, I got all
Yeah.
these guys who are just like, man, they, geez. You know, when
Well,
Donald died, it destroyed me.
oh,
You
I
know,
couldn't even.
Tony died, it destroyed me.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff is, you know, you just don't get over that.
No, I'm glad it was like that back then because like nowadays you got what did I read? You got $1 billion worth of salary, just pitchers on the injury
Right.
list, right? This is what I was talking to Greg Zahn about when the last interview was that the development of pitchers these days is max effort all the time. And I guess, you blow an arm out, you bring another guy up and throws 100. Blow an arm out, bring another guy up and throws a
Yeah.
100. And you were talking about the 5 and 5, and people are complaining that there's not as much scoring now as there used to be. The scoring's way down and hitting's way down. Well, that's exactly why. If you're not getting a team going through or a pitcher going through a third time through a lineup, they're going to get hit, get a few more hits. I mean, it just balances itself out that way. It's like they're taking everything away from the hitters and just giving it all to the pitchers. And the way balls are moving and talk about the umpires and the automated strike zone, I'm starting to think that the pitches are getting so fast that the umpires can't track these pitches as well as they used to with their eyes. Honestly,
Yeah.
because you look at a guy like Angel Hernandez, I know it's a union thing that he stayed in his job so freaking long, but I don't know how you miss that many pitches unless you're just not able to see it.
Right.
That's all I can think of because everything's over 98 miles an hour now, pretty much.
Yeah, and Angel's a great guy.
Yeah.
He's a good man. He's just, you know, I
Yeah.
don't know what it is, you
Well,
know, but the other thing is like when we were playing, you know, you talk about going to the third time to the lineup. A lot of times, like especially well, all our pitchers, Steve Clancy, Leal,
hmm,
you know, whoever the fifth guy was, we would, you know, it's like, man, don't show him too much stuff. You know,
Exactly.
we were throwing fastballs in and away, change ups. Don't throw them your out pitch until with that third at bat. Show them
Hmm.
something different on the third at bat. But we were getting like you look at games, how fast games were. We were throwing strikes,
Yeah.
relying on our defense. You know, and it was like they just don't do that now. I mean, I watch a game, even though the pitch clock, it's like, ooh, ball one, ball two, strike one, strike. It's like
Yeah.
hitters were taking. The other day I was watching a game. It was 2-0. A real good hitter takes a fastball down the middle. That would have never happened when
No,
2-0. A guy's up there geared, ready to hit that fastball. So it's just
hmm
like I don't know. It's just different.
it is. And I mean, I can see why kids might like it a bit more now because everybody likes, that old Greg Maddux thing, chicks dig the long ball, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I loved watching like a guy like I love watching Dave Steep. Like he's always been my favorite. I did meet him once and told him he was my favorite, and he said, "Thanks for making me feel fucking old." So that's exactly what he said. He came with Pat Enkin and there was a catcher we had named Mike McSudian who we had for like a
Yeah,
year.
Mike McSudy.
Yeah, the Bug Eater.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They came into. Did you ever go to Apache Burger out in Etobicoke?
No.
Big burger joint out there, and they came in after a game one day, and I saw them. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, Dave, been my favorite player since I was a kid. They actually make me feel fucking old, kid. And that was so Dave. But now I don't know if I agree. And there was actually a huge documentary done on YouTube. There's a 4-part documentary on Dave alone, saying that he was arguably the best pitcher in the '80s, and I can't see any reason not to agree with that. I think
He was amazing.
he was so underrated, and because he played up here, that's why I was asking what it was like living in Canada. Because if he was pitching for the Yankees, he would have won like 4 Cy Young awards, probably.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
what was it like pitching? What was it like playing behind him?
It was great. He was a competitor. He'd get
Oh yeah,
frustrated at times.
he liked to glare at people.
Yeah, one time Damaso threw a ball away and he looked at him and glared at him. Damaso, get back on the mound, and all this other stuff. But
Mhm.
he was a great pitcher, and he's like another one of my good friends.
Yeah.
Still to this day, one of my good friends. And so he was like, but the thing about it is with him and Clancy,
Mhm.
the number one and number two starter, Clancy was,
He was a
oh,
horse.
he was awesome.
Yeah.
And because Steve was so great, people forget, how dominant Clancy was. He was amazing. Had an amazing career. He's
And Luis too. I thought Luis did really well for the time that he was in the rotation too. Like
right.
we've already back then that was our like we had great pitching. We honestly, you guys had great everything. Great pitching, hitting,
Right.
running. It was a great time. Now, were you here when they won the World Series? Did you come up to
Yeah.
experience all that stuff? Yeah. What did you think of the Skydome when you walked in after playing an exhibition stadium all that time?
Oh, I thought the Sky Dome was awesome. And then, I ended up coaching there,
Yeah.
and then I went to Milwaukee and came back there as a coach for Milwaukee. But I liked it. I never loved it,
Yeah.
but it was like, but I think it's a lot better today than it was probably back then.
The renovations made a big difference. It
Yeah.
seems more of a stadium now, and that's kind of they're not really using it for much other than baseball. They'll do like Taylor Swift shows and stuff like that, but generally, when they redid the stadium, they took about 10,000 seats out and they repositioned the seats they put in to face the field properly, as opposed to before when it was just like straight,
Right.
just generic. So, well, thanks, man. This has been great. I've really enjoyed talking to you. I don't want to keep you to it too much longer, but I just wanted to let you know that we think about you guys all the time,
Well, I appreciate that. That's great.
especially these days. And oh yeah, give a shout out to my friend Leanne.
Leanne, you're awesome. Thanks for being a fan.
That's good.
That's great.
She's gonna love this. She's gonna love this. I really appreciate it, Garth. Your time, I know it's very valuable. And again, thank you so much for repping our city so well. And hopefully we get a chance to chat soon. If you're ever up in the city, look me up. Just look for the big bearded guy wandering around the Skydome.
All right. Sounds good. Talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot, Garth. Have a
Okay,
good
bye.
one. Cheers.
Okay, bye.